Good morning. There are times when I know that I do beautiful things. I'm capable of great kindness, compassion, generosity, sacrifice. I'm capable of doing really beautiful things. And then there are times when I know the opposite's true. I know that I'm greedy and selfish. I'm judgmental. I'm exclusive. I say things that are hurtful. I stand on my own dig and want to be right and fight for what I think is right. My truth, my belief system. And deny relationship. There's these two parts of me. There's this part of me that is true and good and loving. And there's another part of me that goes the other way. It gets defensive and fights against love, against grace. It's much like what Paul says to his letter in the church at Rome, where he says, I do the things that I don't want to do, and I don't do the things I want to do. There's these two parts in me. There's this part that wants to be loving and kind and generous and sacrificial and all the good things. There's another part that rejects that or fights against it. And I end up doing things that I regret, that cause shame or guilt or pain or sadness or frustration. Why do I do the things I don't want to do? And he goes on to use the S word, a word I'm reticent to use because it's been used and abused and misused so often. The word sin. But I can't think of a better word. He talks of this reality in the world, in our lives, that he calls sin. That is actually fights against relationship and love and truth and goodness. There's something in us and in the systems of our world that takes another route, that's about me and us and my tribe, my belief system, the status quo. And all kinds of systems take us in their direction. No matter what we think or want or do, we find ourselves too often going in the opposite direction. And it causes him pain. It causes us pain. It's the cause of shame and guilt and grief, but also the relationship breaks down. I know, it's the email I get that comes across complaining or abusive or blaming or whatever. And the reptilian brain takes over and I see red and I start fighting against it, and my rhetoric in my mind is really strong and rejecting of this. And sometimes I even get to the point where I'm typing away a reply as I'm reading it, and it's filled with invective and reaction. It's just reactive. On a good day, I'll wear myself out or get distracted and put it aside. And I come back later and I wonder, who is this person that was writing this email? This reply, this reaction? Where is this person of love that I want to be? And so I scrub it and write something hopefully better. But too often that's me. And I fight within myself for what is right. Not to be judgmental, not to be have my buttons pushed by other people and get reactive. Not to be in a discussion that turns into an argument because I want to stand up for what I think or my opinions or my ways. And this is a big issue that Paul wrestles with. But it's also an issue that Jesus speaks of. For me, I think it's like the 12-step program. In the 12-step program, which mostly is people who have got deep and serious addictions, gambling, sex, drugs, alcohol, that are ruining their lives. engage in these 12-step programs, and yet we've all got addictions. We're all addicted. We're all addicted to the status quo, to our own security and well-being, our own belief systems, our own desires, our own privilege, our own status. For most of us, those addictions don't get too out of control, but they mess our lives up. Anyway, the first step is saying, I've got a problem. I've got a problem. Hey, Houston, I've got a problem. And it moves on. I've got a problem that I can't fix. I don't know what to do. I can't fix it. I can't make myself better. I can't make myself do the right thing. I've got a problem. And it moves on to say, I've got to trust in the higher power. And the higher power is this one beyond us, this God we speak of, this God who is spirit, who is love, who is the essence of love and hope and life, who is ever present and who is beyond us, but who holds us and welcomes us and invites us into a different way of life, but gives us the strength to do that. And in this 12-step program, it's not just the higher power, but it's relying on this vulnerable community of people who are vulnerable and recognise their own need and are welcoming and inclusive of each other and support and hold each other through the struggles and the challenges and lift each other up. And each day there's this need for reflection, for prayer, for reading, for getting the mind and the being connected with this higher power and with the love that will sustain us. I think that's what the church is meant to be, but so often isn't. And I think that's what Paul is really pointing to. And in Matthew's story of Jesus this week, it speaks of John and Jesus. John, who comes with this austere way, this way of being, this way that is strong and demanding, and who speaks of what's wrong in the world and invites people into a transformed way, but is harsh. And Jesus, who comes in a gentler, more fun way, goes amongst the marginalised and the oppressed and the outcast, and invites them in, welcomes them in, into a way of love and hope and acceptance, who drinks and eats with people and welcomes the tax collectors and the sinners and the prostitutes and all the other people that are excluded into a different way. And people say, well, John was too harsh and Jesus is too, he's a carouser and They miss the point. They miss the point that both are pointing to a different way, a way of love and life and openness, transformation, a way of God. And Jesus goes on to say, come to me, all you who are tired and weary, and I'll give you rest. Come to me, those of you who are burdened and overwhelmed, and I'll give you rest for your souls. And he talks about taking his yoke upon us, learning from him. It's the way of the oxen, putting the yoke on the strong, wise, knowing oxen, and the young, willful, unknowing oxen. And the strong one will help the younger one learn the way. He says, my yoke is easy and gentle, and will give you rest for your souls. This is what he's inviting us to. It's kind of like the ducks on the creek, that they just seem to glide around, sometimes with the current, sometimes against it, sometimes across it. All we see is this gentle, peaceful gliding. But underneath, their feet are going all over the place, steering and guiding and pushing and wearing themselves out sometimes. And that's what it's like with life, where we struggle and strive and life becomes hard. And Jesus invites us into the place where we don't have to pretend we've got it all together. We can be ourselves, recognising we have weaknesses, we have failures, and we can be forgiven. We can get up, and with the help of God, with the help of God's love and grace, the Spirit within us, the people around us, we can contribute to the well-being of the world, and we can find peace in our being, instead of fighting to pretend and show ourselves off to be better than we are, or pretend before the world. We can be real and true, and we can become the people that God created us to be.